Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of FearScape.
Unhinged!
We got a great topic for you tonight.
We're going to be talking about Bigfoot! Yeah! I'm not talking about, like, the monster truck either. Talking about Sasquatch.
So make sure you stick around. Yeah, so Bigfoot, Sasquatch, is
Yeti.
Swamp Ape?
Swamp Ape, Yeti, Sasquatch. So many.
So many that we can repeat over and over again.
Sasquatch. Yeti. But yeah, there's a skunk ape.
Skunk Ape.
Skunk ape.
Is it so Swamp Ape not a thing?
I don't know. It might be. Yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit about Bigfoot. And I guess, just the idea that is, I think Sasquatch is the best term.
I think Sasquatch is probably all-encompassing.
Yeah, that's what I would think, though. I think people would argue and say Yeti is a different thing, but I like to say the term. Bigfoot is a specific Sasquatch.
Yeah, it's
grown into more,
yeah.
But it was a specific Sasquatch. Right. And in fact, I just watched an old, what I thought was a horror movie, but it's actually a docudrama based off of the Fouke monster from Fouke, Arkansas, Legend of Boggy Creek from 1972. And it's the interesting thing about the docudrama is that they used people from the town to basically play themselves, and things like that. So, these people have never acted, but it's a drama. It's all scripted out, and they have a man in a suit as the Fouke monster and things like that. But it's really, really interesting. I mean, it's like the amount of sightings in North America alone are insane, especially when you get to the Pacific Northwest. You get to Kentucky and West Virginia, and you get up in Michigan. There's a lot.
So would you say then that you talked about Bigfoot is one particular instance of Sasquatch.
Correct.
And so really, like you said, some people would argue that Yeti is something different. Although you could just say that Yeti is just the snow version of...
Yeah, I would say they are the Mongolians to our Native Americans.
Right.
They, in my opinion, the Yeti traversed across the Bering Strait and became the Sasquatch of today, right? Because of different climates and different things like that.
Yeah, I can see that being...
They had to...
Or because it's theorized that Northern Africa was the cradle of life.
Correct.
Things then branched out from there. So really, the Mongolians seeded North America.
Correct.
And so Yeti would have been the original, and then they would have traversed the Bering Strait and become Bigfoot or Sasquatch in North America.
Yes, and that's essentially what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah, is that. Though, before Bigfoot, before Bigfoot, that idea of Sasquatch was not Sasquatch. It was more Yeti. And in fact, when we went to Campbellsville University, one of the things that we found in old newspapers and things like that when I would go down to the archives of the school library was that there were 2 Yeti sightings at Green River in the late 1800s. It didn't say Sasquatch, it said Yeti.
So what is the, other than white fur, what is the difference between Yeti and Sasquatch?
As far as I know, not much. They are essentially just evolved to fit the landscape that they exist in.
So like polar bears and grizzly bears.
Correct. That's exactly how I see it. And then I've heard tales of different types as well when you get into other parts of the world. I haven't looked into it, so I don't know. I've only spent a little time with Yeti and Sasquatch.
Right.
So, especially because Sasquatch is huge. Kentucky is where we live. Kentucky is a huge epicenter for Sasquatch sightings. It's huge.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
And the whole time we've been talking, I've been hearing something move around back there.
I hear a lot of crickets.
No, I mean I hear something walking, moving around. So
Okay.
we have surmised before that there's some sort of cryptid or entity or something that maybe exists in this
Yeah.
wood line, and it may just be Sasquatch.
You could
We don't
be.
know.
I mean, you did see something tall
Yeah.
in the backyard.
Yep. And
But
and it's the cry. There are similar things. I mean, it's like there's the cry,
Right.
the Sasquatch cry,
well, there's the whoop as well.
the whoop as well. Trees being pushed at, like tipping in a certain way. Of course, tracks. There's just
Do you think the tree tipping thing is that like a territorial marker? You think
I do think so. I absolutely think it is a territorial.
for other Sasquatch or just other cryptids?
I don't know. And then there's this idea. It's like, is Sasquatch the missing link? Is that the piece, right? Or is it Neanderthal? Is Sasquatch what Neanderthal? Maybe Neanderthal didn't die out.
Right.
Maybe it evolved
to become
Sasquatch.
Yeah, I don't know that you would necessarily say Neanderthal to Sasquatch is an evolutionary thing, but it would seem like a devolutionary.
Not necessarily.
To go from being more humanoid to being less humanoid.
Not necessarily, though. I mean, you don't know.
Well, I
mean, evolution can work in any direction. I don't think de-evolution is a correct term. I don't think that's an actual term. I just think it evolves. It may evolve to something it once used to be, but it's different. Even the idea of Sasquatch is still very different than what the Neanderthal was, right? So it's like, is that what it evolved to because it needed to hide? Maybe, Homo sapien was murdering them, killing them, and so they had to learn how to camouflage and learn how to hide.
Which could also mean why there's never really a lot of them together.
Right.
Because although there's strength in numbers, there's also a tension in numbers.
Yeah.
You never stumble across a Sasquatch camp.
No.
They're very much loners.
And maybe they learned how to cover a lot of their tracks.
And I wonder if there's also like an opportunity or something. If we're going down this thought that they're loners because they're afraid of being hunted. But look at I think it's the humpback whale
From Star Trek 4?
No. I don't know if that one's still alive. I don't know. I mean, humpback whales live to be a long age, but no, I think the humpback whale pretty much goes. It's like it comes together as a. No, they live in a pod.
Yeah, they do.
But there is. I think there's something else.
There are a lot of species that are loners.
There are a lot of species who are loners, who then once a year, a season,
right,
come together, and then separate again.
Right.
And so, if they are loners, do they come together? And if they come together, where do you think that might be that we've never seen a
this
gathering?
is where I get into the Hollow Earth idea. These cave systems that are still untouched. This idea, where do they live? Well, they know where to hide. They have covered their entrances.
Yeah.
They have been able to just come out to forage.
So something I heard once was, and this was a reason against the Sasquatch, is that the amount of food that something that big would have to consume.
Yes, I hear that too.
You would find just like whole flocks of sheep missing and things like that. So
I disagree with that.
So let me take what you're saying
Yeah.
on Hollow Earth, and with that, it stands to reason that if there's a Hollow Earth, there potentially could be a good food source in Hollow Earth.
Sure.
And so there's not a reason for them to come out to really forage for food.
Right.
So
with a heat source and things like that would exist in the
Yeah.
Hollow Earth idea, and not even Hollow Earth. Let's just talk deep caverns, right? It's like, why could they not have also figured out how to do cattle and things like that, and be able? I can't think of the right term for that, but it's like to be able to do their own domesticate animals and stuff. Why they could have their own food source just as we do.
So why come out?
I don't know. And maybe it's a banishment thing too.
Or maybe it's a juvenile that's
right,
being dared to go out to the human world.
or it's just curiosity.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like,
will we be accepted now?
I mean,
we
the
come
one
out?
thing that you hear from modern day Sasquatch sightings now is how aggressive they are.
Yeah.
And they didn't used to be. A lot of the old sightings just saw them running off. Now they're very territorial and they're very aggressive, I think, because man, every time they've seen something they didn't understand, they shoot at it.
Yeah. Well, and to another point that you've made, we continue to expand.
Yeah.
Into their territory.
Into their territory. And
Maybe
we
we get-
deforest a
right.
lot.
Maybe we're getting close to those entrances and they're trying to protect the doorway to a civilization that they don't want to be. Because, and as a white man, I think I can say this: white people are sometimes rude when you look at history, and rude is an understatement.
Yeah.
So, a potential of an advanced civilization to find a cash crop of resources untouched would likely result in extinction.
For sure. For sure. And again, I mean, and this is not a new human thing.
Right.
And it's like, what if this, what if that's why the Neanderthal died off? What if it was Homo sapien that was going after them? And
well, what's really interesting is when people talk about the jump between Neanderthal and Homo sapien, they often, the storyline is oftentimes portrayed as we went from living in caves to living in groups, right? Living in communities and so on and so forth. So if we lived in caves as Neanderthal, likely we still live in caves as Neanderthal,
right,
or whatever they became, right?
Yeah.
And so I think what you're onto there is probably really close. It makes me want to go and look at Sasquatch hotspots,
right, to see
how they are in relation to caves.
Right. Well, even then, would they be caves that are known?
Well, I mean, but even if there's
and what if they're advanced?
So take. I know. Well, that gets into the whole our conversation around like Indrid coal,
yeah,
and a lot of that stuff is that they're all thriving in Hollow Earth, and they're all like living in harmony, and they're the Sasquatch and Landlosians and all that kind of stuff.
It's like the creationists with dinosaurs.
And then we're the savage people who are living on the top of the crust, killing each other.
Well, and also it's like we've talked, and there is a lot of theory that Sasquatch are dimensional beings. That they come from different dimensions, that they're able to traverse that gateway.
Well, there was I can't remember what show it was I was watching, but it had Greg and Dana Newkirk in it from the Hellier folks. But they went to a medium somewhere. I can't remember where it was. And she said that every time they appear, there's a flash of green. And she said that's the flash of green is them coming from one dimension to the other. You look at a lot of UFO sightings, when they when they disappear.
Corona.
I did drink one yesterday. When they disappear, there's like a flash of green.
Well, and there's a lot of theory about that with even like UFOs and UAPs and things like that. There's a documentary I told you about, I can't think of it offhand, about the woman that was able to see the lights.
Yeah.
And she was always able to videotape these lights and things like that. And there's that theory that those lights are, a way, that they use light as a way to cross over.
Yeah. So, like, when you think about, I've come to the realization that I don't think I can do a single episode without talking about at least one part of Star Trek.
Hey, ain't no shame there.
But, you talk about, when you look at a lot of the things that, especially in the Next Generation, it was happened a little bit in Voyager, but really in the Next Generation, they did a lot of things where they would shoot particle beams out of the deflector or whatever in the front, to get it to do things, to open rifts, to close rifts, to seal things, so on and so forth. It's like if you can't eject the core, and stop whatever's happening. Just shoot something out of the deflector dish.
Right, yeah.
But you know, it was, but it's kind of that same mentality of, there was a lot of times if there was like a rip in space time or whatever, it was some particle beam could be ejected that would close the rip. And so it makes you wonder if there's a little bit of that might be somewhat true.
Yeah.
I was watching a show the other night on Gaia. I think that's how you pronounce it.
It is, yeah.
And they were talking about Gene Roddenberry was a member of a society called Order of the Nine. And I've not looked into this. But the Order of the Nine was obsessed with the 33rd parallel.
Right, now that I know.
And one of the things is that Gene Roddenberry was told by interdimensional beings or extraterrestrials or whatever to include a lot of the things that he included in his scripts to introduce those concepts to humanity.
Well, I mean, look how much has come because of Star Trek.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, let's pause.
Foot, not Star Trek.
Right.
Is Bigfoot is it's becoming.
Sasquatch.
Well, yeah, Sasquatch has become a phenomenon. Like, and I mean that in a pop culturally sense.
Right.
You know, it's like, now you got Jack Lynx, right? You got Harry and the Hendersons.
Right.
Things like that we as America has. I think that we've taken on the love of Sasquatch more than Asia took on the love of Yeti.
Yeah. Well, and you know, we've talked about this for other things, specifically around UFO and things, is all of that an intention to desensitize us to the idea of it.
Right.
So that when it eventually comes out to be true, we're not as startled by that truth.
Right. And, you know, skeptics always say, you know, it's like they obviously can't be real, or we would have found them, we would have proof, we would have this and we have that. Yet we find new species all the time.
Right.
All the time. Yes, it's a big creature. But who's to say that the skeleton just doesn't look human?
Or that when it dies off, if it is living inside caves or whatever, and we're not exploring vastly those caves, who's to say there's not burial grounds inside a cave?
Yeah, who knows?
Or that if they die outside of the cave, that their kin go and gather them up and take them back into the cave? Or
who's to say that the hellier creatures, the Kentucky goblins, or those that are in those caves probably too, don't have a laser beam that like cremates them, right? Or are they cremated?
Let me ask you this question. What if Sasquatch is born naked? What if the hellier goblins are, in fact, children Sasquatch?
And that's why they like to play.
Yeah.
Because they're children. Get out of here, man. Let's get out of here, man. But that's like a little quick kind of just touch on Bigfoot and Sasquatch and Yeti and stuff. We're going to cover the Sasquatch and things like that on a podcast episode.
Yep.
So be on the lookout for that. So we don't want to spend too much time. But I do want to tell you to check out FearScapePodcast.com and go to our store. We do have a new Bigfoot t-shirt. You guys have seen it, other versions of it around and things like that. The hide-and-seek champion of the world type thing. Well, we have our own version.
Along with additional line. Like pretty much every cryptid you can think about.
Yeah, we have a line. I mean, we've got the Poplick monster. We've got the Rougarou. We've got Loch Ness. We've got... what else? We got Mothman.
Right.
I mean, I'm coming up. I'm finding more. Anytime I find... Jersey Devil. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of those. So like Mothman is the West Virginia hide-and-seek champion since 1966.
Right.
Jersey Devil, obviously New Jersey. Things like that. Rougarou is Louisiana. So check those things out. Get yourself a Bigfoot shirt. Support us. Helps us pay for things. Helps us continue to do a lot more. Make sure to check out our Patreon when you're there. $5 a month is the lowest you can go, but it's very, very helpful. If you go up to our third tier, we'll give you a free t-shirt, anyone that you want, and all that stuff. Make sure to check out FearScapePodcast.com. There you can have links to YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz. And but we got to get out of here before Sasquatch comes and gets us, and it's eating our light. So,
Yeah.
but thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been Stefan. I will catch you on the flip side.
This has been Josh. The truth is out there.
And remember, folks, hold those blankets extra tight, especially if it's Sasquatch fur. We'll see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.